Good afternoon, well, good evening, everybody. How are we all doing? And welcome to PRL. We are here for round 8 at Qatar. It should be a pretty decent race. We've got 18 of 20 drivers as of right now. We are 2 minutes overdue, so we should be getting ourselves going anytime soon. I think we're just waiting on one or two more to join. Hopefully that is the case anyway, as we've had an expendable. Right. Anyway, yes, Qatar. Let's have a little chat, shall we? It should be, I'm hoping, a good race. This is the first time we've been to Qatar. I'm fairly certain. It's the first time I've commentated over Qatar, so that will be interesting. I've got absolutely no idea how it's going to go, how it's going to be. I'm looking forward to it. Nevertheless, I can't give you a track map because I don't have one. They're all imported over from F1 22, so I have the slight problem with the fact that Qatar wasn't in that game, so I don't have one. I need to make one. They got the timer ticking down in my ear now, so we should be getting ourselves going fairly soon, I would like to imagine. As we do indeed go into the session. So just before we do go into the session, let's have a quick chat about the drivers' standings. Mr. Cookie currently sits at a fairly comfortable 12-point lead on the championship. We've got just 3 more events to go, so it is now pretty much all to play for. Every single race is going to matter more and more as we round off the end of this season. But really, the only man that is competing with him is J-Horse in P2, 138 points there. So there is a moderate gap between them, but J-Horse is very notorious for being able to close down these kinds of gaps and get the points he needs to go and win championships. So it'd be great to see how that's going to occur over the next 3 races. Behind him, though, we got Thompson, who's down on 105 points, and then our Henson dropping all the way down to 87 before having a slew of drivers down until 22 points. So we've got a I can't speak today apparently. We've got a fairly close title fight between 2 drivers. Then Thompson sitting pretty comfortably by himself, and then our Henson, Brockle, and Spirus all looking to have a scrap. That could be a really interesting one today, especially considering the fact that Brockle isn't here today. And Spirus is, and our Henson is. So this could be huge for Brockle if he can't, unless the 2 other drivers have absolute stinkers. He's in trouble. He is in trouble. I can tell you that much for free. Right. Let's take a quick look at the Drivers' Championship, the Constructors, sorry, and it tells a very, very similar story. Scuderia Ferrari, 194 points for them, and Mercedes, 167. There's a big, big gap between both of those 2 teams. So Ferrari getting close to being able to say they've wrapped up this championship, but they've still got a little while to go. I don't think they've quite sealed the deal with just 30 points and 3 races remaining. They have still got a little bit of a way to go. Red Bull on 148, also pretty similar gaps between them. But then look at this fight in the midfield. AlphaTauri, Williams, and Aston Martin split by 3 points. 134, 133, and 131. That can just change so much over the course of literally today's race. So keep an eye on that. Keep those numbers in your head. Alfa Romeo down on 121 as well. They're kind of still in this fight, but not quite as much. And then Alpine 104, Haas and McLaren 96 and 86 respectively. So definitely some slow teams at the back. Haas and McLaren could definitely see a swap round today if one of the teams is particularly faster paced than the other. But with that, we should probably get out onto track, shouldn't we? I think we should. And the first man out on track is our Henson. There he is, just coming around the corner now. The track map is down in the right-hand side, so you can see where everybody is at all times. And, well, it's an awfully interesting track, isn't it? 2 very clear different sections of the track. The first small section of Sector 1 and then the ending of Sector 3 and the long straight in between it before a very convoluted, quite tight turning section. What do I say strategy-wise? I genuinely have no idea. This is an event in which I can't say anything for certain. I've got no idea at all who's going to win, how people are going to qualify, what's optimal lines, optimal strategies, optimal tyres, tyre stint distances. I've got nothing. Absolutely, I genuinely don't even know where to start. Right. Well, this is pretty much, I think, the very first lap I've ever watched somebody do around Qatar. So this is going to be a learning curve for both me and you. I don't even know where the optimal... Right. I have F123, right? I have a rig. I literally never get the time to play this game. I've got about 86 hours or something along the lines on F123 so far. And I'm fairly confident that about 60 of them are commentating. Like, genuinely, I have barely played this game, and I think I might have done about 4 laps around Qatar. I have no idea where it goes, how it's laid out. I know nothing. I know absolutely nothing whatsoever. So, you are going to have to bear with me. So, Ferrari, that's Jay Horse just starting a lap now. We've got Jay Thompson coming across the line to start a lap. Obviously, his first fly, he didn't make it round fully. I do apologise. I'm still struggling with my cough, but it is getting a bit better week by week. Hopefully, it's not as much of an issue this week as it has been the last few. As more and more cars coming down the back straight now. It's getting harder and harder for me to jump to the right people. There's Valley just starting a time. There's an Aston Martin. Jackalacco goes P2 currently. With that, a quarter of a second slower. Next driver through, Spirus Virus. Puts himself pole position by an astronomical amount. 3/4 of a second now, down to the next driver, Hazard, in P2 as he's just coming into the garage. Right, next driver through is an AlphaTauri. That'll be Kresnos. No, it won't. It'll be, where's the other AlphaTauri? No idea. I think they're all coming into the pits, you know. Ferrari through next. That'll be J-Horse. How does he get on? Across the line he goes. Provisional pole. Only just, though. Less than, just shy of 0.5 of a second faster. But unfortunately, it's not quite to be. That was Jay Thompson there. Just put in P3, 0.6 off the pace. Next through is a McLaren. Think it's Stinky Pinky. Yes, it is. Goes P5. Red Bull through next as well. That'll be Boniam. Puts himself P3. Haas through next. That'll be Valley. And it's P4 for now. 0.3 of a second. Alpine through next. And that is Rapid. I think has just gone and gotten started on a lap. Yes, indeed it has. Aston Martin coming into the pit lane. That'll be Jackalacco. Next through is a McLaren. So I'm going to guess Spray and Pray. It is, but he is on an invalidated lap. Jimmy Jags beginning a lap now. By the looks of it, that Red Bull coming into the pit lane. Also, hello, Mr. Touristics. I've never been called Mr. Touristics, but that's not too bad, actually. All right, R. Henson, how are you doing today? What's your predicted strategy? Or, like, what are the strategies around this track? You're a man that knows his stuff, and I really don't. I'm not in a position to really be commentating this because I don't really know what I'm doing. So, any help would be greatly appreciated. Jimmy Jags has put a purple Sector 1, ladies and gentlemen. What is the world we live in? I really hope that's a glitch. I really, really hope that's a glitch, because if Jimmy's put in purple sector ones, then what is going on? Don't get me wrong, Jimmy's a good driver and everything, but beating his teammate? I mean, stats show us that Jimmy Jag sits a comfortable 2 seconds. Well, actually, no, I'm going to give him 1 second. I'm going to be nice. On a good day. So what's it? A 120.9. J-Horse the only man in the 120s. Jimmy goes P11 with that 1.8 off the pace. Medium to hard will be difficult but doable. Okay, so likelihood is without safety cars, a lot of people are going to try the 2-stopper because of tyre deg. But with a safety car, it is possible to only stop once, especially if the safety car is in a more preferred place. You know, you can get off of those mediums right when they're dying, or you can get off those hards right when they're dying. Okay, interesting. It's bad when you have to actually ask one of the drivers and you don't actually just know from experience. But there we go. I need to race in the league just so I know what I'm doing. Right. Who's out on a lap at the moment? Because we're currently just following Jimmy Jags around. That is Hazard into the pits. Jack Alaco is about to start a lap. I think so is... Oh, no, Sparrow Praise in. Ferrari next. I think that's J-Horse about to start a lap. No, it's not. That's Jimmy into the pits. What's that now for a Mayo? Darrell Mike? Yes, it is. Is it to finish a lap? I believe so. 118, 119, 120, 120.8. Oh, that's fast. Puts himself top of the timing sheets. And DRL Mike finds himself in a very strong position as Kresnos doesn't quite pip it to the front position. In fact, he's going to have to take a front row grid for now. This man will want to have something to say about this. He won't be happy that he's lost out on his provisional pole. He's got some time that he needs to gain, 1.5 tenths of a second. But it is manageable. It is certainly doable. He's just going to have to try and pull it off. Flawless lap. That's basically what he needs. I think Mr. Cookie's just gone and set a time. Yes, he has. Puts himself P5, quarter of a second off the pace to DRL Mike. But as we know, we are only a fraction through with 7 minutes remaining. Pretty much everybody will try and get 2 more laps in, I imagine. If not, if you're already in the pit right now, you're probably looking at a 1 more lap. Whereas everybody out on track at the moment, such as J-Horse, is probably one of the only examples I can actually think of. Maybe Aramleth as well. I don't know if he's going for a lap. I think he is, you know. He's coming up to the end. Oh, no, he's very down on his time. 17.7 seconds. I think he's now just racing to get in the pit lane. Nevertheless, this is pretty much a man I think we're probably due to watch. Coming through Sector 3 now. Pretty nicely. Very close to breaking time. Track limit, sorry. Oh, very close again, but DRS open and now onto the back straight. Is it going to be enough to gain a provisional pole position? Once again, it's a 120.863. It's so close, but he hasn't quite managed to get past Mike. He puts himself right slap bang in between Mike and Kresnos with a gap of just 17 thousandths of a second between him and Kresnos. And 40 thousandths of a second between him and Mike. This front three are looking competitive, to say the very least. I think that's putting it in a very nice way as well. Spyros Virus on a lap. We'll watch him. Currently running through Sector 2 and to the end of Sector 3. He's currently up 2 tenths of a second. He's currently looking for a provisional pole at the moment with a lap time as such as that. So long as he can nail these last couple of corners, heck, even keep them exactly the same as he did prior, that would be provisional pole for him. As he comes down the main straight, DRS opens, soaring past the camera, and goes for a 1:20.694. The time has just gotten a whole lot less as Spyrus Virus puts it on provisional pole. Now that is a bit more spice to the mix. Mike, J-Horse and Kresnos all have a lot of work to do if they want to get a provisional pole now. He's made it difficult, hasn't he? Only thing is, I don't think he's going to have time to get into the pits and back out again before that timer runs out. We're on 4 minutes and 40 seconds at the moment. So it's close. Don't get me wrong, it's not like impossible, but I wouldn't have said that it was a guarantee. I've also just noticed that I've forgotten to turn on the audio, so you haven't been able to hear the cars this entire time. So do allow me just for one moment to do this. Righty, well, I hope you can actually hear some noise now. Yeah, you can. Right, I do apologise for that. It's one of those things I always forget to turn on my controller, my secondary controller. It's a bit of a weird one. Blame PlayStation. They just have to go and make things difficult, don't they? Right, Kresnos and Cookie now on their final outlap. Kresnos being the second of the two. So Cookie will be our first man to start. He is pretty much the fastest of F1.5, as they like to call it. You know, that midfield bunch, sort of him back to sort of Jay Thompson, I'd say, is sort of the midfield. And then we got this secondary midfield, which probably runs from, what, P11 down to P14 and then 15 and below. I'm going to say roughly split it into those quadrants. Now, Cookie leaving it awfully late to get himself going, but there he goes. Decent little exit, and I think this is a good opportunity to talk about the actual track itself. So it's a very long straight. In fact, it's pretty much one of the only overtaking opportunities into this long right-hander. Pretty much a very open hairpin before a then quick switch to the left and a kink to the right. So car balance is absolutely vital throughout this track before we have a very small straight into a sharp double 90-degree right-hander into a tight hairpin. So this could be a good possible maybe go for a bit of a dive bomb before then opening up to a long right-hander. You can definitely keep your foot nearly planted to the four through there, especially in qualifying. And then it's a quick S to the left, to the right, over to the left again. That's a bit tighter than the previous two before then swooping back up the hill again before hitting the triple right. I think this is probably my favourite corner here. You go 1, 2, and then it's a short straight to 3, and then a weirdly angular corner to the left. You can tell this is a MotoGP track, can't you? And then a swooping corner out to the right, and that completes the lap. So it's quite a short lap. 120, as we say, mid 120s. Mr. Cookie was looking really good through that track. Let's see what he gets. He gets a 1:20.8, so that's going to keep him at P5 for now and completely level his time with Kresnos. I mean, perfectly level. Because Kresnos put that lap in prior, he stays in fourth. He's also invalidated, so this was kind of Kresnos' plan, that if he went for a lap and it didn't quite go right, he did get an invalidation, which is very easily done around this track. No big boundaries, no buffers, no nothing. It's really easy to run off. He can go and take a second lap, and that's exactly what he's doing. Interesting though, Spyrus Virus has managed to get himself out on a lap. which I'm pleasantly surprised by, as we've got quite the traffic in Sector 3 at the moment. Yellow flags in there. So as far as coming out of that first little section of corners into the double rights, takes it pretty nicely, maximising the corners in their size before switching over to the left. So yeah, moving from the left and right hand sides of the track is absolutely vital around this circuit. Lots of lefts and lots of rights come perfectly next to each other, which means you're constantly switching from the left to the right hand side of the track, as Armalef is disqualified for going the wrong way, interestingly enough. That is rare that that occurs, but nevertheless, we'll take it as it is. So Spyrus now running into the final kind of sections of the track, is currently up on his time by a 1/10.5, which would definitely put everybody else quite a long way behind. Kresnos, I think, is the next man of the front bunch stroke. And by the looks of it, he's going slowly. So that'll be Kresnos' qualifying over. He'll stick with his time. Spyrus Virus is going to come across the line. He's going to pick up a 1:20.475 to put himself firmly at the front of the timing sheets. 3.5 tenths down to DRL Mike now, who is indeed coming around the final corner. What can he do? Can he take that top spot? He's got J-Horse just behind him, but is he going to be able to grab provisional pole? For now, it's going to be a 1:20.6. It's not quite going to be, but J-Horse, can he get it? No, he can't. He does improve, but it's nowhere near enough. And whoa, Sartell absolutely flying up into P4 to steal that position from J-Horse, I believe. No, from Kresnos. From Kresnos it's been stolen. That way round. And there we go, we're qualifying over just like that. Spyrus Virus has taken a very comfortable pole position there all of a sudden. Of what we thought was going to be a very close qualifying, with DRL Mike in P2 for the Alfa Romeo, J-Horse P3 for Ferrari, and Saratel in a very surprising P4 for Aston Martin. Kresnos P5 AlphaTauri, and Mr. Cookie P6 for Mercedes. Rapid in P7 for Alpine, and Valley P8 for Haas. Bonium in P9, Hazard P10, Spray and Pray P11, J Thompson in P12, Sticky Piggy P13, Daedric Prince P14, Jackalacco P15, Henson P16, F1ology P17, Jimmy Jags P18, and Armalef in P19 after that disqualification. And Kresnos rather unhappy that he could have been going 3 tenths faster, but not sure where that would have pipped him. So unfortunately, what's the word? The word is just, I think I was going down a tangent which I didn't actually know how I was going to finish. Ignore that completely, please. Please do. I don't need it. Right. We should be getting ourselves going rather soon. Where's my phone? There it is. I need to read what's happening on the Discord. Right. Oh, yeah, we go straight to the 5 red lights. I completely forgot about that. Right. We're away, and Spyrus Virus hasn't got the best of starts. In fact, DRL Mike, whoa, all of a sudden he jumps in. So I think that's a little bit of an EA lag spike there going on. And whoa, look at that. J-Horse is going to try and go around the outside immediately at turn 1. It's not quite going to pull off, and the Alfa Romeo is going to be able to tuck in back into second place. DRL Mike doesn't hold on, and what's this? The Aston Martin loses that position to Kresnos, who pushes, has to take the outside line, and because of J-Horse being positioned there, has had to give up that position once again to the Aston Martin. So after that move being made, nothing has been gained for either driver, and it's big lag spikes for Spyrus Virus. He's jumping about all over the place. Interestingly, Mr. Cookie really offline there, and I think he was having a look to see whether he could get past Kresnos, but it wasn't quite to be for him. He's going to have to give it another shot for now. Come on, Mike. He's in a good place at the moment. Mike, especially with Spyrus Virus, by the looks of it, likely to get internet problems. as far as I can tell. And what's that? That's Jackalacko stopped on track. Not quite sure what caused that, but that's going to push him down to the very back of the grid, as well as Daedric Prince obviously had some issues in the first lap, and that pushes those guys slightly further back. Possible race strategies, a medium and a soft is, well, our Henson kind of almost negates that and says that a medium hard is going to be challenging as is. Medium soft would be utterly ridiculous in that case. As far as Virus, unsurprisingly, puts in the fastest time, and Saratel is going to launch it down the inside and take P3 from J-Horse here. So, an impressive start for Saratel. He's come absolutely out of nowhere to get P4 in qualifying, and now has gone past the championship leader for P3. Ever so slightly behind though, a second place. Mr. Cookie is looking to try and gain some positions. He wants to try and get past Kresnos sooner rather than later, but is currently struggling to do so a bit. I wonder how long it's going to take him before he can get past, if at all anything. We know Kresnos is a very good defender. He's shown it on multiple occasions. So who knows, eh? Who knows? This could be very interesting to see. Right, well, interestingly, Mike has gained a little bit of a gap here between him and the Aston Martin and Saratel. It's a second, so it's pretty noticeable in the grand scheme of things of just how close all of these drivers are, and pretty much driving one by one. It's a very difficult track to go around. And what's that? Spray and Pay picks up a 3-second time penalty on lap 2 for multiple warnings. So that is going to have to plague him now for the entirety of the race, and he knows he has to be extra careful now because the next penalty pushes him up to 6 seconds of time penalties. Around a track like this, it looks like it's going to be tight all race long. I don't know quite how he's going to pull it off. And look at this, Kresnos is going to try for it round the outside here and makes a little bit of contact with the Ferrari. And that allows J-Horse to scoot right on through, as the Mercedes did have a little look to see whether he could get past and take advantage of that situation. But I think he's going to go for it now. He's going to have the inside line here at the outside line at the double right-hander. Can he get the switchback possibly? Not quite, but clearly showing that he wants to be aggressive. He's going to stick it down the inside, and oh, he's locked up. Mr. Cookie locks up that front left wheel, and that's put his race into total shambles. He moves all the way down to P10. He's clearly struggling. I know yesterday in PRL, he said that it was his first time driving with ABS switched off, and it clearly shows it's a rookie mistake as he gets that front left ever so slightly locked up as he's trying to turn in, and that's just over-rotated the rear and caused him to spin around in the hairpin. Unfortunately for him, there's not much he can do about it now. He's just got to try and prevent any more wear and damage to the tyres and try and gain as many places as he can. But now stuck deep in the midfield as Stinky Pinky picks up a 3-second time penalty. We saw it there just on our screens. Him running very wide, and that has gained him an additional penalty. And what's happening? Just up at the front, DRL Mike has managed to get himself past down the main straight and has gotten himself into the lead. I was not expecting that. I knew that they were quite far back. I didn't think he was going to go for that move, but he has, and he's made it stick comfortably as well, and has already built up a third of a second lead. It isn't exactly the closest of leads, but it clearly shows that Spyros Virus, whilst very strong in qualifying, maybe not fully as much on the race pace, as both of these drivers have started indeed on the medium tyres. Importantly, they are on the mediums, but everybody else behind them, behind to Bonium, are all on the hards. So long as they can keep close, they do have a tyre advantage starting on that alternate strategy. Though, to be fair, I think the mediums might be the alternate strategy here. I think the primary strategy has to be the hards. But then again, it can completely depend on where you start your race as to what is your alternate strategy. So completely different positions, especially for drivers' competitiveness. You know, if they've just had a bad qualifying, that can completely change the ideal strategy and the alternate strategy. Really interesting plays going on here, and look at this Rapid very close to the back of Kresnos there for a moment, as J-Horse pretty much in no man's land along with Saratel. Very open, all of these drivers. And can Spyros Virus get himself back? No, he can't. He gets awfully close, but it wasn't quite to be, as there we go. As I said earlier, Rapid definitely looking on the pace today. In fact, you could almost say he's looking a little bit rapid, but that would be too bad of a joke to make. Staying awfully close though, Kresnos, ever so slightly, very slightly behind actually. It's barely a tenth of a second between them. But picking up a 3-second time penalty there kind of shows that I think we're going to have a problem here. We are going to have a problem of time penalties. It's clearly... Oh, I am a fan of this camera angle, I must say. Definitely gives us a good insight as to how these cars are reacting through some of these corners. Having to get into a very low RPM there to try and keep the car on the floor and not spin round. Spires Virus going for an interesting driving strategy of trying to keep the revs low, which would increase torque but doesn't decrease wheel spin. Yes. No. Decreases torque, which decreases wheel spin, but also decreases power because the torque's been decreased. Because power means torque for the most part, so long as your gear ratios are right. It's all very convoluted. Happening just behind though, as Mr. Cookie's got on past the McLaren now and has gotten himself into a bit of a no man's land. Now with 1.3 to catch up to the back of Bonium, who's currently having a bit of a fight with these guys. Speaking of, Kresnos managed to get himself past Rapid there down into turn 1. It's an unsurprising move to make. It is a very common, and I think it will be the most common move to be made today. Lots of drivers have already gone down there. So it's certainly not going to be the first time we see it. It's certainly not going to be the last. Right, well, close driving is plentiful at the moment. Speaking of, Hazard, very close to the back of Stinky Pinky, so he's going to try and get in on the action of getting past these McLarens. Mr. Cookie did it just a moment ago. Maybe he can too, he thinks. But I'm actually going to focus a little bit. Jimmy Jags, 3-second time penalty. I'm going to focus up at the top boys because, actually, for once, they are incredibly close to one another and could definitely be swapping around. Maybe this lap, maybe next lap. I mean, it's 0.4 of a second between front two drivers with DRS and DRS. That's not a lot of time to cover. It's 0.15. It's the swap's been made as Spirus gets himself into the lead of the race with a little bit of time to spare before he picks the brake. Oh my god, what the hell happened there? What? Spirus was comfortably leading into that corner. I changed camera angles and all of a sudden he's not. Sometimes this game's camera angles are actually atrocious. I mean, the guy's comfortably leading into the corner. What? I've had to go and watch that back just to make sure I wasn't losing it. I wasn't losing it. That's genuinely what's happened. Spirus Virus has gone into the corner, comfortably leading. The camera cuts, and he's behind. I've no idea what happened there, but apparently some interesting moves. Spray and Pray has managed to get himself back past Mr. Cookie, so clearly his efforts to try and escape and try and move up the grid order haven't quite been paid off as of yet, but that could certainly change over the rest of this race. Ever so slightly behind though. All three of those just spread out slightly. It's Kresnos, another 3-second time penalty. I'm pretty certain that. I think that's his second. Yeah, 6 seconds for now. Whoa, look at this. Absolutely soaring past goes Mr. Cookie. And soaring past as well goes Kresnos into P5. But yeah, Kresnos, 6 seconds. Spray, 6 seconds. Stinky, 6 seconds. Jimmy, 9 seconds. Already. We haven't even had much of this race. We're on lap 8 of 29. We are less than a third of the way through. Come on, boys. Saratel with F1. With a 3-second time penalty as well. That definitely puts him in a challenging situation considering the fact that the top 4 are split by a whopping 1.5 seconds. And now he's pretty much sitting 3 seconds out of that, simply on penalties alone. And what's happened here, that's a McLaren having a bit of a hard time. He's managed to get himself going once again, but Spray and Pray now down into P13, along with Stinky Pinky. Both McLarens have gone from a really strong sort of good points playing positions to now falling down to 12th and 13th. Big gaps now between Mr. Cookie and Hazard, which is where we would have expected them to be sat. That's where they were sat, and they've both fallen down the order now, really struggling, obviously, to keep on the pace, or maybe have made a mistake here and there. I'm not 100% sure. Righty. Fighting. Let's watch some. I've got to say, one thing I can't say... Yeah, this is one of the tracks where pens pile up if you're not careful. I mean, we're already seeing at the moment, aren't we? Penalties are already a bit of a problem. Hopefully, most of the drivers get comfortable and then not as many penalties occur for the second half of the race, but I honestly can't guarantee it. So I'm not going to sit here and say that, yes, that's exactly what's going to happen. Good chance it's not. As my headphones are really loud, I'm going to turn them down for a second. I can barely hear myself think. One thing I will praise this track on, even if penalties isn't one of them, is the closeness and the competitiveness. I mean, Singapore last week. Good God, that was dull. This, so many... Whoa, Bonniam! Massively off the driving line there. Massively off the track. Not quite sure what was going on there, and he's picked up a 3-second time penalty because of it. And so has Spray and Pay, another 3-second time penalty for him. So, you know what, I'm going to leave penalties on for now. I think it's probably a wise idea. As J-Horse, they're swooping through. I think going around the outside, interestingly enough, has managed to get himself a nice swap round for P3. He's got a bit of time, though, to have to catch up to back to DRL Mike. So maybe that's kind of on the cards. That's his next goal, his next aim. He knows Saratel F1's got 3 seconds behind him. So that's not a massive issue for him. Obviously, he doesn't want to get stuck behind. That's the important thing. Getting stuck behind would be atrocious for him, because he wants to try and now gain that time, get back into DRS of DRL Mike, and possibly go for a race win here. We're up 10 of 29, so we have 20 laps remaining. 1/3 of the way through the race, and we still, it's beginning to split more and more sort of as the laps tick on, but nevertheless still much more closely fought this first 10 laps than what we saw last week. Perhaps if, you know, just throwing it out there, maybe a safety car. Let's throw a little safety car in there. That'll bunch everybody back together again and on fresh tyres. I don't know about you, but that sounds pretty good to me. That sounds pretty good to me. Just trying to watch to see if anybody's going to try and go for a move down at turn 1, but by the looks of it, everybody's coming through nicely. Jackalacko into the pit lane. So what are stops looking like? Jackalacko, I think maybe on an early stop here, lap 11 of 29. So he's planning on doing 20 laps on a set of mediums, or whether he's going for 2 sets of mediums, I think is probably the more logical of those options. I'd like to think so anyway, because that is pretty wild if that isn't the case. Amalef, 3-second time penalty, multiple warnings once again. It's just pushing those track limits, isn't it? Drivers are struggling, clearly, as penalties have built up significantly at the moment. Saratel, 3 seconds. Kresnos, 6. Bonniam, 3. Stinky, 9. Spray, 9. F1ology, 6. Daedric, 3. Jimmy, 9. And Amalef, 6. I'm going to leave that as our sort of primary watch. And I've got a good feeling, you know, this time round, that DRL Mike is going to go for a move. He's, what, 3.5 tenths, up to 4.5 on the exit. He's clearly struggling out of that final corner. He gets very close, and then he loses a quite considerable amount of time out of that final corner. Nevertheless, he's about as close as he's been so far, but backs out once again. for the lead of the race, decides not to go for it. What's happening back down here, though? Absolute chaos is unfolding as Rapp has managed to get himself past Kresnos, and Boney has managed to get himself past Valley. But Kresnos looks much more on a hunt than Valley, I must say. Sticking very, very close. 0.15 seconds is just a ridiculously close amount going through a corner. I haven't seen that before in some time. F1ology in the pit lane as well. So more and more drivers deciding to pit. I say it's a little early. I wouldn't be surprised if people start pitting within the sort of the next 5 laps, I'd say. It seems like a very demanding track as well for tyre wear. Spyrus and DRL Mike currently both on that medium set. They're both on the same strategy. They are both pulling away from J-Horse. I worry for them taking into consideration when they do come into the pits, and well, DRL Mike closer than he has ever been before. As I say, once they do come into the pits and swap onto those hard tyres, well, J-Horse is going to be, and rapid, really, if you think about it. But J-Horse is probably the main competitor here. As there we go. DRL Mike does get the distance. He does get the better view. And so does Saratel as well. So DRL Mike back into the lead of this race. Almost kind of to be unsurprised after sticking very closely throughout this entire time. And J-Horse actually losing the place there to Saratel. I would say Saratel's not a competitor. It's just because of the penalties. Because the pace is really strong from the Aston Martin driver. But just those couple of penalties too much. And it's just causing issues. As Hazard and Stinky Pinky in the pit lane now. Both exiting actually. And I think they might just get out in front of our Henson here. I don't think Stinky will. But our Henson is certainly losing out to Hazard. Who's considerable way up the road actually. Well, so continue sticking to the front for now. Actually, F1ology awfully close to the back of our Henson. Once passed, doesn't he? Front bunch beginning to open out a little bit. But yeah, so... Oh, right, okay. DRL Mike and Spyrus Virus coming in on the same lap. So they have identical pit strategies and they know they don't want to let the other get the undercut. Sort of thinking of Spyrus there. Spyrus, he might have been waiting for lap 14, but he'll be thinking, actually, no, it's too dangerous. It's too dangerous to stay out for that extra bit of time. Now, will Spyrus, where's Spyrus gone? I've lost him. There's DRL Mike. It's quite a gap, isn't it? As, whoa, what's happening here? Mr. Cookie down the inside to try and take the place from Valley. Is he going to go for it? No, they're going to continue side by side now to the double right. And the Haas has got the inside line here. Cookie might be able to have the better exit speed. He does go ever so slightly wide off of the track. But he does indeed make it round. And with certainly no penalty, but possibly a warning out of that move. But it hasn't been considered an illegal overtake by the stewards. Thus, most likely to be a perfectly legal move. And he's got himself past Valley pretty nicely there in a position we don't usually see moves, do we? We usually see him at turn 1, if not resolved by the time we get to turn 2, maybe turn 3. Going into turn 4, it's almost unheard of at that point. But there we go. It has indeed happened. And yeah, so DRL Mike and Spyrus now down in P10 and 11. J-Horse into the pits. Interesting. Bonium as well into the pits. Right, let's watch Mike. In theory, should come out 2 seconds in front of J-Horse. Unless the overcut works better in J-Horse's favour. I'm not too sure. Right, J-Horse now leaving the pit lane. Leaving rather slowly. There goes past the Alfa Romeo. There goes past the Red Bull. So long as he gets himself out before these Mercedes drivers, I think he's still in a pretty decent place. Right, so he has lost a bit of time on that lap. About a second he's lost. So it's not ideal. But there's just one little advantage. Is that J-Horse now runs medium tyres to the end of the race. whereas Spirus and Mike hard tyres. So that changes the dynamic of it a little bit, doesn't it? And Cookie and the back behind Valley, I saw them moving about, but I thought it was just because of the pits. Nope, apparently not. Valley actually did get a move on Mr. Cookie, as Daedric as well gets himself in a big battle with Hazard. Swooping, Daedric's got the inside line here, but he loses out with exceptional acceleration from the Haas, who keeps P12. And Saratel and Rapid into the pit lane now. See whereabouts these guys come out. Saratel, in theory, should be coming out just in front of J-Horse, but I don't know. He's got those 1 lap fresher medium tyres. So, slight overcut on J-Horse. I wanted to say the McLaren, but no, he's not. He's Ferrari. Oh, this is going to be really close. But no, the Ferrari does manage to get himself out in front. He'll be very happy with that. The nice little undercut from J-Horse means that he keeps P8 for now. On his job to try and close the gap between Spirus Virus and himself. But currently not doing an amazing job. Currently 2.8, so he's not really gained any time throughout that first lap. Maybe that was just his tyres warming up, and now we can actually, you know, start to get to it. And I think that's almost the case, isn't it? Because as I've started talking about it, he's already down to 2.6. But I think the fluctuation is purple sector 1. There we go. His tyres have warmed up. I can tell you that for free. His tyres are hot now. Right, actually, I'm going to leave you on J-Horse here. I'm going to disappear for just 2 moments. I shan't be back. I shan't be gone for long, but I feel like if anybody's going to be catching ground, possibly going for a move, I reckon it's going to be around Mike, Spirish, J-Horse and Saratel. So I'll leave you on those. Alrighty, apologies for that. I am indeed back. Right, what is happening? Saratel, I noticed just as I was leaving, picked up another 3-second time penalty. So he's up to 6 seconds in penalties. Spirus on 3 seconds of time penalties. Mike beginning to run away a little bit on these hard tyres. So he's clearly got the confidence on the hards, much more than Spirus. J-Horse hasn't really caught the way he needed to on these medium tyres, but he has still got a little while if he can try and get any benefit out of them. Currently, he is in a place to pick up P2 here, but Mike still in a very good position to win this race. As I say, Saratel now really struggling on those penalties. If anything... Oh yeah, Spira's picking up that penalty. That's interesting. That definitely throws a bit of a blunder to the race, really. It just removes one more opportunity to have a race winner. All of a sudden, it does look like it's in DRL Mike's favour. Whereas, you know, Spirus and DRL have been pretty much side by side on the mediums the entire time. As it is beginning to open up, the field certainly is opening up. As Saratel's got a really good run on J-Horse here. Down the back straight, it's 0.4 of a second, pretty much as DRS hits. Is he going to be able to go for a move? Yes, he is. Down the inside. Gets it made. Saratel up into a net P4 for now. But with penalties, would definitely see that drop down to P5 at a minimum. I think, yeah, sticking with P5 for now. Because of the penalties behind him. Stinky Pinky, 12 seconds. Spray and pray, 21 seconds. Oh dear. Oh, that's a lot more than I remember it being. Because it is a lot more than it was. But yeah, as of right now, J-Horse is the closest man, or the man most likely to be able to have a scrap with somebody. Half a second, the gap between him and Saratel. I do hope I am pronouncing that correctly. If any of you do know him and know how to pronounce his name and what I'm doing is wrong, please do tell me. As Bonium, 3-second time penalty, multiple warnings. I feel like I've said that. That is my most said phrase today, 3-second time penalty. I might have to do a full word race roundup. Rapid also very close to the back of Kresnos. These guys... Kresnos has managed to constantly be in the firing line. I feel like this guy just hasn't been given a moment's break. Jimmy Jags, 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings. As my poster's fallen down. Well, say it's fallen down. A section of it's fallen down. Like the top left corner has lost its stickiness. See, I'm trying to stick it to the wall and it's just not going. Right. It's up for now. I don't know how long that's going to last, but... And by the looks of it, Valley into the pits, which means DRL Mike does indeed retake the lead of this race. It's taken him a short while, but in fact he has done it. And look at this, Saratel has caught up massively to Spyrus and indeed manages to get the move done. Wow, that's a big gain by Saratel over the last couple of laps. I didn't realise that it was closing down quite at the rate that it had been. But yes, indeed now he is in front and up into a on-track P2. But this man right here is currently still comfortably P2. As the people in front of him with significant penalties, to say the very least. And then the next man to not have penalties is currently Mr. Cookie, who, if I do gap to leader, has a deficit of... He moves up to P5. Nearly. I know, Rapid. Rapid takes P5 at the moment. Then Cookie... Then Kresnos, then Bonium. Rapid will need an extra 6 seconds. F1ology, 3-second time penalty. 24 seconds for Spray and Pray now. It's 18 for Jimmy. 15 for both Stinky Pinky and Arameleth. And F1ology. It's not going good for him. It's not going good. As these drivers now definitely closing in. Saratel is closing in on Mike. So if J-Horse can follow Saratel through, this gives us a good opportunity at a fight, which is exactly what we want. I've just noticed there's a bit of rubbish on my mic. Get rid of that. Yeah, we want to fight. Kresnos, 3-second time penalty. Have a guess what it's for. It's for multiple warnings. In other news, it's night time. There you go. Rapid 3 second time penalty. It's unforgiving. It really is. It's completely and utterly unforgiving. Drivers at the back, no idea what's going on. It's absolutely chaos towards the back of the grid. Those drivers shifting around massively there. That was a Stinky Piggy managing to get himself past Daedric, who put up a fight for a bit, but it wasn't quite to be. I mean, that could have definitely been a quite a good fight, but unfortunately, it didn't quite form together. We could definitely see one rather soon. I'd like to think so anyway. Need some light in here, man. It's too dark. Oh, Spirus is close. Just coming off the main straight, though. Could possibly be why. Right. Well. Tis quiet out on track at the moment. Spray and Pay is DNF. Oh, it's in the pit lane. Oh, I got excited for a second then that we were going to have a late race safety car and everyone was going to get bunched up and everyone could go onto a set of softs. And no, of course it wasn't. When was it ever going to be, like, close? I mean, don't get me wrong, this race could definitely still get turned around. I reckon a Saratel can definitely push DRL Mike. I mean, what's it, a 1.2 second gap at the moment? Spirus, don't get me wrong, is a lot closer to the back of them, but even if they work as a group to actually put on some pressure, would be nice to watch, to see a decent fight. Obviously, it's going to be J-Horse versus Mike, but if Spirus picks up another penalty, we could see a fight between both Saratel and Spirus, as those two do look very similar on pace. It's really open in the air, isn't it? I don't really know what's going to happen, who's going to get the positions, what's what basically. I mean, Jimmy Jag's 3 second time penalty, that puts him to 26 seconds. It's a that is what they call a gap. As there we go, J-Horse finally getting himself past Spirus and could hopefully push on maybe to try and go for Saratel. It's plausible. Saratel, though, is the other driver on the mediums. We kind of got this crew. We got two outside hards and then mediums on the inside. Could definitely leave an interesting strategy towards the end of this race. See how tyres hold up. I'm not too certain. Valley 3 second time penalty. Virtual safety car. Oh. Interesting. No idea what for, but Jimmy Jags into the pit lane and has retired from the session. Probably in the knowledge that he wasn't going to get much out of the rest of this race, which does kind of make sense a little bit. It's quite a gap. And with the amount of seconds he picked up in penalties, let's be honest here, how much was it really going to go his way? I'm not too certain. Right, well, once this say virtual safety car ends, was me lost it on the sharp left hander. Oh, right, okay. Jimmy. I'm guessing that's why you retired. You couldn't be bothered to change your front wing. Fair enough. Honestly. Right, these drivers are now... These three, Saratel, J-Horse and Spires, I know it's not really for any positions, but these are very competitive. Oh, he looks at it, doesn't he? He looked. But decided against it eventually. Unsurprisingly, that was a bit of an outlandish move. And, oh, little bit of contact there made between J-Horse and Spirus. As the front wing just gets slightly knocked. Well, congratulations to the podium finishers of the Qatar Grand Prix, sponsored, funnily, by their airways. Oh, no, I don't want to turn on Sticky Tea. Bugger off. Congratulations to the three, and we will get you some interviews soon, I hope. Righty, let's do a quick little rundown, shall we? DRL Mike has won the Qatar Grand Prix with J Horse in P2, Spice Virus P3 for Red Bull, and Saratel P4 for Aston Martin, Mr. Cookie P5 for Mercedes, and Jay Thompson P6 for Williams, Kresnos P7 for AlphaTauri, and Rapid P8 for Alpine. Valley P9 for Haas and Bodiam P10 for Red Bull, Hazard P11 for Haas and Jackalagio P12 for Aston Martin, Daedric P13 for Alfa for Mercedes, Henson P14 for Alfa Romeo, F1 Odyssey P15 for Alpine, Stinky Piggy in P16 for McLaren, Amalef P17 for Williams, Jimmy Jags P18 for Ferrari, and Spray and Pay in P19 for McLaren. With Jimmy and Spray DNFing. Right, let's get you some interviews. You alright? Yeah, not too bad. What is it's really annoying because I'm streaming. It like cuts off some people's names, so I can't actually like see who I'm atting. So can you at the other two to let them in to tell them to do interviews? Thank you, thank you. That was a decent race, much better than Singapore. I had stuff to talk about, which was handy. Oh well. Anything on? Or just double check for Spyrus because obviously he'll be P3, so we go to him first. Yeah. The cough is deflating. I haven't had to. I think I had one instance today, rather than like the 9 or 10 I had like 2 weeks ago. So we are definitely looking on the up, which is nice. Yeah, it's only taken. Sorry, it's only taken sort of 7 8 weeks. Mm. Yeah, you were gonna say. Basically, when's the sort of rough start? Like, are we starting pretty much the starting of January? Like, sort of when are we starting? So, early January. It'll be 10 weeks from 11 weeks. March 14th. Right. Okay, that's pretty decent timing then. Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. I mean, it might be like a 1 or 2 race overlap tops. I know those guys. Those guys finish end of January, and they usually have a month off, so they'd be getting going sort of early mid March ish. So it'll be around that sort of crossover time. Yeah. Righty. We're not gonna get him, are we? We're getting fourth, right? Okay. But to be fair, oh yeah, um, yes, because he was in the front running, wasn't he? Because he had 6 second time penalty. Ho ho. Hello, hello. Alrighty, right. I shall get this turned over soonish because we've been off for a little while. Right, get going in a 3, 2, 1. Welcome back. We got some post race interviews. We haven't got the top three. We've actually got fourth and second today because two of our podium finishers decided that they either had already gotten off their PlayStation or just didn't want to have their interview, which is perfectly fine. So we've decided to get in our fourth place finisher as well. First off, Saratel. I am saying that correctly, aren't I?
Yes, of course.
Good. Right. Talk us through the race.
Yeah, I had a pretty tricky race. I got some penalties that I didn't need them to get, but the strategy was good. The setup was also good. I didn't have too much time to practice, but I eventually made it out to top four, which I'm pretty happy with my debut. So I hope the Aston Martin guys are happy with the points I bring it up home.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was a competitive race from start to finish. It was a track where you were pretty much always within at least a second and a half of another driver. When you're in kind of these sort of races, do you feel a bit more confident, or is that a bit of a worry for you?
Well, I'm a bit more aware because you need to stay in the DRS firstly. Because if you don't get the DRS and you have some guys behind you with the DRS, you will lose much battery, and you will also lose some fuel. Because if you have less downforce, if you like, if you have like less downforce when you're in DRS, you'll save a bit of fuel. But if you're in clean air, you will lose some fuel because in this track you really need to be careful with the fuel because you saw other guys, maybe some guys didn't finish the race because they didn't have enough fuel.
Mm.
I was a bit
I
concerned of that.
Yeah. Overall, as well, you think sort of the only place where that race went wrong was with the penalties?
Um, Mostly yes. Yes, I think that's all. But I can maybe have a better strategy. Maybe I could have saved a bit of battery on the virtual safety car, but it was okay. I'm happy with the result, but could be better. But yes, at the end, the penalties made my race to be a bit worse than expected. But I'm happy with the result, of course. Before,
I was going to say that is still a very good result, nevertheless. Right, shall we get your 3 word race roundup? 3 words to describe your race or the race as a whole.
mm, avoid the penalties.
Yeah, I think that summarizes it pretty nicely. The penalties were just rampant today. I think I saw the maximum was about 26 seconds of penalties somebody got. So 6 seconds is actually pretty decent going. Congratulations on the very strong finish, and we look forward to seeing you very soon.
Thank you, mate.
Alrighty, and we have our P2 finisher as well now, and it is J Horse. J Horse, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. It feels like a while since I've spoken to you, actually.
It has
Um,
been, hasn't it?
yeah, it's been a bit strange, but yeah, no, good to be here. Good race. A sweaty one. I was telling you that I was on 2 warnings from lap 2 onwards, so I was doing my very best to stay away from the white lines, and I think it cost me about 2 or 3 tenths a lap, which wasn't ideal. But to come over the P2, I'm pretty happy with. It keeps the championship close for the moment, and yeah, congrats to the guys on the podium, and congrats to Saratel. I think it's his debut. So yeah, good P4 from him.
Yeah, and well, I'm going to turn to those 2 warnings. When you are in a situation like that, especially within the knowledge of if you keep it clean, you take both of those positions. Because at the end of the race, you were sat in P4 at the time. When you're under that kind of pressure, does your driving focus sort of change focus, or do you just change your driving style slightly just to make sure you stay within the lines?
Yeah, naturally, I think you just scrub a bit of speed off going into the corner to make sure you stay within. And especially around this track, you really need to carry the speed as well as you can. I think also just generally, I didn't have amazing pace. I haven't had amazing pace for a while. I don't quite know what's going on. Um, so I don't know. Maybe I need to practice a bit more. I haven't been practicing as much as I'd probably like to. But yeah, no, it definitely does change your driving style. And I knew the Cookie was behind me, so I thought there's absolutely no point in risking dropping down to P3 or even P4. So I thought no point trying to challenge Mike for the win because I think he was a bit too far up. Take the P2 and move on to. I think we got 2 rounds left, so it's going to get exciting hopefully.
Yeah, well, speaking of, I saw that it was 6 points now, the gap between you and Cookie. How
Yeah.
confident are we feeling that we can close that down by the end of round 10?
I. Who knows, mate? Who knows? Anything can happen in this league. I think it was 11 points and then it was 7, and then it was 12. Now it's 6. So it's just going back and forth. So you never know. Jeddah and Brazil, I think, are decent tracks for me. So we'll have to wait and see. I will put a bit more work in than I have been, because it'd be nice to win. So we will see. But I think whatever happens, it's going to be a fun fight, and whoever wins is going to be deserving. So I'm just looking forward to what hopefully should be a fun ending, and it should be good for you as well. Give you something to shout about with your poorly throat.
Yeah, it certainly would. One last thing before we go on to the 3-word race roundup. I've been watching the Discord Tier 1 chats sort of as we've been talking, and by the looks of it, Mr. Cookie has pretty much laid down a precedent of winning. If he wins the championship, he does a shoey. Now, my question, do you want to match that?
I mean, not really, but I feel like I have to now. I don't know how that works. How do we do the shoey? Do I have to turn my camera on and do a J Horse face reel and then shove beer down my throat from a sweaty shoe?
I think that sounds about right, to be fair.
Good lord. All right, yeah, go on then. I'll do that if I win.
There we go. So,
but can we have the stipulation that if Mr. Cookie wins, he has to do it with a pizza on his head?
That is a yes.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough.
I love that idea. Get that.
Brilliant.
Get him told, because
I'm going to put that in. I'm going to put that in writing.
Yeah, and if I've said it as well, then I feel like he's got a bit more of an obligation.
Lovely. I love it. I have no idea how we're going to do it, but we'll make it work.
Yeah, what could possibly go wrong? Well,
what could possibly go wrong, indeed.
Exactly. Congratulations on the podium finish.
Thank you.
I look forward
Thank you very much.
seeing you very soon.
Yes, hopefully see you next week.
Yeah, see you guys later.
See ya.
And that just about rounds out today. Thank you all very much for watching. I've been the Characteristics. You've been treated to a very nice promise from both of the drivers that could possibly win the championship here today. Thank you, and good night.